Hey all, welcome back to the channel, and it's Friday, and on Friday we usually have some fun, but I want to make a special note before we get into our fun on our Friday. Today here in Canada, this is known as the Day of Truth and Reconciliation. If you don't know the history of this day, I certainly encourage you to look it up. It is an important day of recognition here that really speaks to issues of equality. Now, that being said, while I've done my due diligence and my civic duty, let's move into the focus of today's review. And the focus of today's review takes us to my very first offering from APC Toys. They, of course, have been doing a lot of characters from Transformers Prime, one of the most beloved parts of our franchise, one of the most beloved series in all of Transformers. Enter Night Countess, their iteration of Airachnid, who was perhaps one of the most renowned and sinister villains of that series. But the original deluxe release was pretty lackluster. How does this one compare? Well, we're about to find out in the latest GotBot True review. Hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, man, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you're at it, light 'em up, baby. Hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton, and it lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links, all of that in the description down below. Also in the description down below, and if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. You can check us out on Patreon. You can see what we have to offer to you through Spring, or of course you can hit the join button at any time right here on YouTube and become a channel member. And this is the Night Countess. It is APC's take on Airachnid, and it's not a remold or a KO or anything like that. This is an original character that is inspired, of course, by Airachnid. It is a completely new design. It is pretty fantastic. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it is pretty fantastic. Certainly better than the original deluxe, which we will see this in comparison to a little later on. There is some good, there is some bad, there's a few things that would have changed, there's certain things that I absolutely love. So without any further ado, how about we head over to the table and take a closer look at her. And while most people would agree that Transformers Prime was a fantastic series with great character development and well-written stories, one of the kind of most enigmatic of those characters was Airachnid, Prime Airachnid, which APC Toys has tackled here as Night Countess. And you see here, welcome to Night Countess's Dark Forest. This is obviously meant to be an homage to the episode where Airachnid kind of hunts Jack and RC in the forest after crash landing on Earth in the episode, I think it was called Predatory. And that was a very kind of creepy episode, and it established Airachnid as a very sinister villain that was going to be a serious threat. Unfortunately, when it came to a plastic version of her, it was pretty lackluster what we got in the main line, and a lot of people have waited many, many years for a good version of Airachnid. Is this it? I'm not sure. I have none of the other APC Toys offerings, but I will admit that they have a great name. So we'll see how this one goes. So nice artwork there on the side, again just kind of in the forest on the side over here. Looks like line work. And back here it says Night Countess Art Gallery. So I mean it's interesting because a lot of people have said that this is sort of what she would look like had she appeared in Transformers Animated. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I think it's an interesting take on her nevertheless. Inside the packaging, we can see that we have a beautiful foam insert. Up here is where the main rotors for the helicopter are. Of course, she's in the center. And two sets of spider legs on each side. Interestingly, the spider legs only have 3 legs on them because I really think you're supposed to leave the rotors in the back, and that technically gives her 3 more. But if you leave one kind of just going straight down her back, then it kind of gives you 2 shorter ones. It's weird, but we'll see it, and I actually think it's effective. So that's inside, plus we do have a set of very glossy instructions, but to be fair, while I don't think these are particularly good, There's a kind of a video tutorial online very quickly that's done very, very well, and it shows you via stop motion by highlighting the parts, how they move. I think it was an interesting way to kind of tackle it. I found that kind of quick little tutorial to be more effective at helping me than this, even though the arms are a little bit bonkers, man. Little bit bonkers. Being as this came from Show Z Store, I'm very happy to say that, hey, look at this. They included some Autobot and Decepticon logos as well, which is great because she's going to need a couple. And we have this Optimus Prime card on the back. If you scan that, that's how you get in contact with like customer service and whatnot for whatever. You know what? I'm going to give credit where credit is due, honestly. I think that that is pretty nice. And while I'll touch on it here, I'll talk about it more when we actually get to the review of this other thing. But I had a loan of, I guess, a KO of MP Ratchet that is just atrocious. That belongs to Justin from the 3D Corner. He got his Ratchet from Show Z Store as well, and to their credit, when he contacted them, they basically gave him store credit for the value of the entire purchase. So, I mean, you know, I get that. Store credit is as good as anything else because they offer some pretty great products. And she comes with two sets of these spider legs. There is a 5mm peg right here. It goes into a slot on her. They can like rotate all around. I do find that they like to come out of the little peg, so you might have to repeg them, but that's not a big deal. There's a hinge back here and a hinge up here, so the leg can spread out quite straight. I wish there was more going down the length of the leg. I do like the purple detail, so that's cool. It's not hateful by any stretch of the imagination. I will say that the plastic here does feel kind of thin, but I don't think it's going to break, not unless you really push beyond its limits. I don't know why you would do that. The hinges are all tolerance, pretty nice. You can see right here where they're pinned in, right there. Naturally, these aren't exactly efficient for helicopter mode, but they're okay for, actually no, they're great for making her look even more sinister and dangerous in robot mode. If you wanted to keep them off though, I mean, you could do that and she would look like this. And I don't think that this is too bad. Granted, it looks more simplistic than what Airachnid should be, but I don't think it's too bad. The way I have the legs here, I mean, that would be up to you. I guess helicopter rotors, if you want to call them that, they can bend, you know, 90 degrees one way, not the other way. But let's say that you have this done and you're thinking to yourself, hey, I'd like to have these out over her shoulder. They are on kind of ball joints here, so yeah, you could still put them like out over her shoulder. You bend this one up and it could come out around the side. So like they don't come out far because they're helicopter rotors, but I mean, you could do it. There's no reason why you can't. Then we have, I should try and point this out, it's black, so it's going to be difficult to see. We have little holes right there on this little piece on either side. And those little holes are where you put in the other spider legs. Now, we'll get to that in a few moments. I'm not going to do it right away. Let me just get her settled here for standing. By the way, you might have seen me there kind of fiddle with her standing. That has nothing to do with her. It's interesting. I have a real thing about wanting the silhouette of her leg to look like a natural leg. And the heel does, on mine, go back a little bit further than, I'll say, a natural heel. So it kind of gives her a very pronounced calf. And maybe that's supposed to be the way it is. Maybe that's supposed to be accurate to the animation. But I feel like it's almost like too much of a calf. So I do try and put the heel down a little bit more. That's just me being nitpicky. But honestly, once she stands pretty great. Let's talk about the look of her and kind of like I guess the paint on her, so to speak. It's a little bit difficult, but we're going to start really from kind of the ground up and work. So down here we have purple on the toes, as we should have. There's a pin there, I think. It's hard to tell, but I feel like there should be a little gold detail there that's not there. The shin being black, the gold on the knee is right, the purple on the inner part of the thigh, and the black going up the kind of outside of the thigh. The black on the pelvis is right. I think that the little pink detailing for lights might be right-ish, and I say that because perhaps it's actually supposed to be purple. It's hard to say for sure because usually when we see Airachnid, it's so dark in the animation that it gets a bit challenging to tell some of the finer details. The abdomen, tummy, if you will, should indeed be purple. The chest should indeed be black. When we get up around the shoulders, again, on this black, we should have a gold detail that's not quite there, but I understand why it's not, because it shouldn't really be there in helicopter mode. Then the purple on the arms is correct. Again, at the elbow, where the ball peg is for the elbow, arguably that should be gold. Maybe purple is accurate. I think it depends on the animation. Then for the lower arms, really the main part of the arm, the inner arm if you will, should be purple, with the panel on the outside being black as it is. The hands being purple is pretty much accurate. Granted, down over the back of the hand, we should almost have black. It's almost like she's wearing fingerless gloves, right? Black fingerless gloves. We don't quite have that, but I'm okay with the hands being completely purple because, again, in the dark of the animation, it's hard to say for 100% if it's just her fingers that are purple or the whole hand. The head. The head is pretty fantastic, honestly, with the silver face, the purple eyes, the gold highlights, the flares and detailing. I do think her eyes are a little more round than they should be. Like, it's almost like she has more of a surprised look on her face than a sinister look. So I would have thinned out the eyes a little bit more to make them sinister, but very minor thing. It certainly embodies the character. And then for the, I'll say the spider leg rotors, certainly in robot mode, they're supposed to be black with the purple tips. Though I do believe that when we go to helicopter mode, they kind of magically turn silver, which won't happen here, but I think that that's a minor kind of gripe and a minor thing to have to give up. I'm going to say that in terms of look and coloration, boy oh boy is she close. I'm going to give it a 9 for sure. A couple of things that probably could have been done differently, and maybe even then it's arguable if it's more accurate. So I'm going to say a 9 for sure. What about the articulation? We will touch on the articulation more like when we get to one of her other modes, but this will basically give us what we need to know for articulation. The head, it can go left, right, well up, well down. Excellent head. It might be like a ball peg into a hinge joint or something like that. We don't have a waist, but what we have is, kind of get this out of the way. What we have is like a chest swivel. So it does the same thing as a waist, and it's pretty free-flowing, so I'm okay with it. And it gives us a bit of a wiggle, and even a little, I'm not going to call it ab crunch, but even a little bit of a forward movement. So I think it's a ball, maybe it's a ball peg. I think it's a ball peg. And I think it's effective. The shoulders, they are somewhat limited because of this panel here, but you can move that panel sort of forward and get out that far. It's not perfect, right? But like, you know, it's not perfect, but if you know the original Airachnid, this is infinitely more shoulder movement than that had. The shoulders can go. That was just a cap off of the camera lens that fell. Don't mind that. The shoulder can go well forward. The shoulder can go back. Some people find that, again, bits of the shoulder panel here catch. I guess they do a little bit, but I don't find it hateful. Some people have said that they found the plastic thin. The limbs are thin. The plastic is somewhat thin. I don't feel like it's too fragile, but I mean, don't ham-hand it, right? 90 degree here at the elbow, but because we have a ball joint and a hinge, you can actually get 90 degree and then some. The wrists, they do have a swivel, fairly tight, but they do have a swivel. The thighs can go out to the side about that far. It's not perfect, but it's again infinitely better than the original. We can go well back though, and we can go forward about that far. Again, it's not perfect, but it's certainly functional. We have a knee here to easily 90 degrees. There's this other weird hinge here that is, I guess it gets you, I guess if you really want to get you kind of a deeper knee, it's a weird looking knee because you detach stuff, but I guess you could use it. A couple of range of motion issues in terms of, not issues, a couple of range of motion limits, I suppose we'll say. And they're not terrible, but they are a little unfortunate. I wish we had an ankle tilt. She doesn't have an ankle tilt. That's a bit of a bummer. She stands all right. Now, to be fair, while I say I wish she had an ankle tilt, let's not forget we can put these on, and if you angle them the right way, I mean, you have far more stability, right? So I'm going to say, oh gosh, the look was a 9. The articulation, I'm going to give it, again, a 9. It's good. I think 9's a little high. I'm going to say 8. 8 for articulation. You can get some pretty cool poses. You can get some dynamic poses. You might have to finagle things a little bit to get everything that you want. Like I said, don't ham-hand her, because while I think she's made of great materials, and I think she feels great, some people have noted that, you know, some feels kind of thin, but I think it's just the nature of the beast, right? It's the way Transformers Prime was. Especially her. I would venture to say that RC probably feels somewhat slight as well, at least in the arms. Here she is with all of her spider legs on her. I still have the rotors on the back, so, I mean, it is what it is. These, again, I showed you how they move. They can move via the 2 hinges. There's also, in where they're pinned, you can move them back and forth. And of course, at the actual peg is where you could rotate them forward if you wanted her legs facing forward, or you could even rotate them up, or you could have one set of legs in and the other set of legs not in. There's a lot you could do there with the movement around, which is very, very nice. If we don't have ankle tilt, for example, then I'm glad that we actually have fairly versatile legs. Like I said, I just wish, where we have 2 hinges up here, I wish we had one more, maybe around right here. Like a third one I think would have been over the top, but for what it is, I'm not bothered by it at all. Now, one of the famous things she can do is kind of get in her arachnid mode, if you will, and I'm going to take the legs off again. They will go on after we do the slight bit of conversion here, but right now I think they would kind of get in the way of seeing the little bit of transformation we have to do. So we're going to take these hip pieces out first and foremost, and we're going to kind of bring the legs back, and we're going to angle up her face. We're going to take her arms and bring them in kind of in front of her. You can like cross them over. We'll say like her chest if you want, like this, right? But we have to do a little bit of transformation here with the legs. So remember that hinge, where is it? This one, that snap, and I said you could get a deeper knee. Well, you can do that and bring this kind of all the way up. And again over here, and bring this all the way up, and bring these legs together. They should tab together all right at like the tail fins and stuff. Then we bring these pieces in on the sides. This is down straight, and we can bring these up over as well. And then you can take these spider legs and put them in, and she should be in that mode where she's like half helicopter, half spider. And it looks something like this. And yes, indeed, here she is in that mode. I'm kind of looking down on her. She's actually fairly significantly off the ground. Like, my hand can easily go in underneath her. And she is looking straight forward, even though it looks like now she's looking down. It's just the angle of my camera. If I come here and kind of angle it up a bit, you can see like she's looking straight forward. And you can adjust these legs however it is you like. So just taking them off so you can kind of see this, you know, this kind of mode again. You know, this is what we kind of have as the core, and they go in, like I said, right there, right? So, neat. Now we're going to kind of get her in her robot mode again. By the way, it's easy to get here. You're just kind of collapsing the legs. We'll get her in her robot mode again. We're kind of done with these pieces now because we're not going to use them really in helicopter. And then we're going to do the transformation to helicopter and give her her final score. But I wanted to put her back in robot first because I wanted to be able to compare her to this. I mean, honest to God, is there even really a comparison to be made? This is such a sad rendition of her. I like the helicopter. I detest the look of this robot. If you want to know how she scales with something more modern, I don't know, like here she is next to Skids. Like, she's a tall, lanky deluxe. She's a really thin Voyager in terms of height. So, yeah, I'd call her a big deluxe, personally. Okay, so let's do the transformation to helicopter mode and get out of here. So we're going to take these pieces and bring them back. You could actually take it off if it was easier for you. We're going to take the arm, and it folds all the way up and in. And when you do it, you need to, okay, it doesn't just fold up. You got to fold it at the hinge to get it up. The ball peg likes to go with it as well, so you might have to kind of finagle it a little bit, and you got to make sure that the hand gets inside in here, so it kind of looks all folded up like this. If the hand isn't exactly the right way, you might have to kind of unfurl the arm to make sure that the hand gets in there. Okay, so they come up. Then we're going to come and we're going to pick off the backpack. And the backpack, there. The backpack has a little rectangular peg that goes into a slot down here. Then we're going to come to the arms, and the arms pick off of two little pegs and fold back. Right, they're going to fold back like this. And we're going to turn the whole kind of waist section down, and it will come down, and then all of the arm piece comes forward to kind of become the front of the helicopter, if you will. Bring this down, bring this down. We have a little flap in here. I find that the pin for this is super duper duper tight on mine, so I don't know, be careful with it, I guess. There you go. It pops out. This comes down. This will come forward. And all of this kind of comes forward, and it will lock together. It's a bit of a bear to get it locked together. Once we have that done, we can take the, I don't know what we call this here. We can take this flap and this flap, and it has the entire section with the 3 rotors on it, and we will rotate that all around, and it's kind of over the top of Airachnid's head. Now I'm going to solidify and peg in the front as much as I can. Not gonna lie, pegging this front together is the biggest challenge of doing this transformation. It is a bit of a beast to do, I find. So if I make a cut to do that, don't be surprised, okay? These pieces come off the side. We're going to close up the feet for now, and we're going to bring up the legs, and when we do so, there's a little, I don't even know how to explain this. There's a little tail section right here that has 2 little pegs on it, and on the inside of the leg here there's a little peg hole, and they are going to go up over those pegs, right? So they're going to go in there. I can't see it right now with all the black, so I'm going to have to do it off camera. And then these are going to come up on the side, and there's a little rectangular slot there and a little rectangular peg right here. And these will come up and go over that and over that, and then we straighten up the rotor pieces on top, and in essence, boom, here is your helicopter mode. Now, naturally, I don't have things pegged in here. I'm going to do that now off camera and get her in her mode, and we'll see her next to Airachnid's, the proper Airachnid's helicopter mode as well. And here we have both of them in their helicopter mode. I will admit that I like that this one looks more angular, but what she gives up in robot mode is unforgivable, and I don't really like the purple rotors as much. It's not for me, but I do like the angular look here. With this one, it's a little bit more of a bulbous look and a little bit less angular. Now, if you're here wondering, oh, how did he get this all together? So, here's my path of doing it, because when I showed you the transformation, I didn't actually peg everything in. I'm not going to lie. There are smaller, not small, but they're small-ish pegs here. None of mine are stressed. None of them are broken. Most of them are rectangular rather than circular. I would like to keep it that way, right? So we'll take this back out of it. Here, my strategy that I find works best is fold up the arm and bring it down on the side. What you're looking to do is try and tab it in the front. I find that the hardest. And there's a little tab back here that goes kind of just in under the cockpit section. Then for this, like, I'll say hip piece, I find the best thing to do is to kind of put, angle it out and push it up from the bottom. That way it fits in around the arm here, and then push it over the rectangular tab down here. If it's not lining up with the rectangular tab down here, then you have something done wrong with the arm. Go back and kind of make sure your arm is positioned correctly. That's the best advice I can give you. Outside of that, you're just tabbing the legs together. Underneath of her should look like this. Couple of little finicky parts. I'm going to say that her transformation is, it's better than this. It is better than this. So I'm going to give it an 8.5. So we had an 8 for her articulation. We had a 9 for her look, an 8.5 for the transformation. Overall, I'm going to say she's an 8.5. Is she perfect? No. Is she infinitely better than the original Prime Airachnid? Absolutely. Is she worth getting? Definitely. Am I impressed with my first foray into APC offerings for the Transformers Prime line, or inspired by the Transformers Prime line? Absolutely. Will I be content with her as my version of Prime Airachnid? Easily. Easily. She has such grace, stature, presence, and threatening nature to her that I think that she looks the part, I think she feels the part, and I couldn't be happier. And here we are once again, and here she is. So, in terms of the look, like, it captures Airachnid. Fantastic. I can also say that, thankfully, because of all the ball joints, if parts pop off on her, more than likely they're not broken. More than likely you can pop them back on. Trust me, I know from experience. Not that I popped any off transforming, but we were doing some cleaning up here, and a leg came off, and one of these hip pieces came off, and one of these came off, and Starscream wife is saying sorry. But luckily, everything was able to go back on. Not that I wasn't nervous when parts came off. And they go on super duper solid. The tolerances here are great. So she looks the part. The transformation, once you've done it a couple of times, it's pretty good. The hardest part, I find, is kind of pegging the arm sections, I guess, into the nose cone of the helicopter. Other than that, it's great. The extra spider legs, they just give her a more sinister look, a more foreboding look. Like, I see her, and I see her coming, and I get that same sort of sense, like when I see Overlord, or when I see Scorponok, or when I see Megatron himself. Like, you know, bad things are gonna happen when she comes. She looks that sinister, if you want to put it that way. The articulation is great, not perfect. Ankle tilt would be nice. I wish that the hips were molded in such a way that the outward motion of her leg and the forward motion of her leg were just a little bit better. But, you know, I mean, it is better than the original by leaps and bounds. The shoulders, I get that we have to have this piece on it. It is a little bit of a hindrance. It's not hateful. You can still get a decent range, but you do have to adjust them ever so slightly. Captures the look, clever engineering. I think the materials feel generally quite good. Some people have said that things feel thin, but now that I've had parts actually kind of come off, because it was sort of like pitched aside for vacuuming purposes, I gotta say, like, I think the materials are robust and good, even though they might feel thin. I'm impressed with her pretty much across the board, and the couple of little imperfections and the couple of little improvements that I would like to see really don't ruin the experience at all. Like I said, she's about an 8.5. I think it was an 8.5. 8.5, something like that. Things could be improved, but as she is, she's still pretty fantastic and an easy recommend from me. Let me know what you think about the Night Countess. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. I know how important your time is to you. Gee whiz. What a Friday. What a week it's been, man. Hit the subscribe button. Stick around. Have some fun with us here on the channel. Hit the... goodness. I'm really... You know what? Let's do a take 2 of this. Alright. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your very valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course hit the join button right here on YouTube and become a channel member. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Stick around, have some fun with us. Especially don't forget that somehow, some way, each and every single solitary day, you right there, you do make a difference in the world. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights at the stop motion premieres, or the old fashioned way right here inside the videos.